Authentication is an essential part of any app, and nowadays it seems like just about any account can be used for authentication. So how can we manage multiple strategies for authentication without needing to rewrite our code each time? Passport. Passport is a popular authentication middleware for Node.js. Built to be modular, Passport supports strategies like username password, Facebook, Google, Twitter, and nearly 500 more authentication strategies. This video will be focused on authentication in its simplest form, username password, but we will hopefully be able to see where Passport can help us add more authentication strategies down the road. I will be assuming you already have Node.js downloaded, so if you don't, go download that now. I will also be assuming you have some basic knowledge about databases, but that's not really the focus of this video, so with all that out of the way, let's get started. First, we will be creating a simple Express app using the Express generator. To use the Express generator, you're going to need to run the command npm install Express generator. I'm going to be doing this globally. I actually already have it done globally, but this is what the command looks like: npm install -g express -generator. With that installed, we will be able to run this next command to create a basic app. We'll be running Express, the name of my app. So for this project, I'm just going to call it my app. Then we're going to tell it we're going to use Express.js, and then we're going to use the Express.js view engine. With this, I'm going to hit enter. All right, we see it created a folder with a whole bunch of files here. We will now be installing some packages for the project. So the first one is Passport, which is the middleware that we were showing off. And each strategy for Passport is managed as a package. So if we want to use username password, we're going to be installing npm install passport -local. The next thing we'll be installing is our database. For this, we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to use SQLite and Sequelize to help manage our data. So npm install SQLite 3, and then we'll be running npm install Sequelize. So with that out of the way, I'm going to go through really quickly, delete some things that we won't be needing. We're not going to be needing our public inside of our routes. We're not going to need this user route. We're going to be handling this in our own way. We're going to delete error. We're going to keep index. That's what we're going to use. And I just realized all the packages, I forgot to change the file. So I'm going to move these packages up into the right file, and then I'll be back. All right, with the packages moved to the right location, we're going to continue inside my app. I'm just going to strip this down a lot. We're not actually going to be using a lot of this. So I'm going to get rid of everything that we don't need really quickly. We're not going to use these. I just want to make this as simple as possible. All right. And then with that, I believe we're able to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the database. For this, I'm going to create a file called database.js. And inside this database.js, we're going to use Sequelize, and we're going to create a simple SQLite database. So we're going to get Sequelize, and then we're going to give it the name of our database. And since we're using SQLite, we're not going to have a username and password for this, so we're just going to pass it username, password, and then we're going to tell it that our dialect is SQLite, and our host Now we could be running this in memory if we wanted to, and that way every time we stop the program and restart it, all of our data will be erased, but we don't actually need to do that. For this program, we're just going to run it in a file called db.sqlite. And then we're going to export this module. Right. With that in our app, we're going to make sure we basically start the database. So in here, let's see, express path. We're going to require that file that we just made. Sequelize equals require database. And then in here, we're going to run sequelize.sync with a callback that'll say that log database is ready. So basically this will just set up the database we need to do. It'll create a file. We could pass in this flag force equals true if we wanted the data to delete itself every time and restart, but for now we're going to leave that out and we'll just run this. I think this is everything we need. If I run now npm start, we'll see if there's any errors. Doesn't look like there's any errors. You can see our database.sqlite was created. If I come over here and we try to go to localhost 3000, you see we get the express. Welcome to Express. This is coming from the index.ejs. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a couple views. So this index.ejs, we're just going to strip this all out, HTML5, hit tab. We're going to make this very simple. So we're just going to say home, h2, we're going to say welcome, and then username. We're just setting up some things that we need to, basically, we're sure we're going to pass in a username, and that's going to come from the authentication in the database. And then the last thing we need to do is we're going to add a logout button. And for now, I'm just going to write this in, and then we'll come back later and kind of make sure that everything is working. Logout method equals. So this form, we're going to make a post request, and we're going to set this up. Auth, we don't have this set up, but we're going to have a route, and that's going to handle all of our authentication. We're just going to go through auth and then log out. It's going to make a post request, and that should redirect us back to the home page, which should then redirect us back to our login. So in here, we're going to have input type equals submit, name equals logout, value equals logout. So now if I come in here and refresh, you see we get an error, and this is actually expected. We don't pass in a username. So inside our routes, we're actually going to come in here for now. Oops. We're just going to pass in some dummy username. So unvalidated user. And now we're going to come in here. We're going to stop this, npm start. We can refresh this. Welcome unvalidated user. We have a logout button. If we click this logout button, it'll send us to a post request, but obviously we haven't set that up yet, so that won't work. The next few, we're going to create one called login, and then we're going to create one called sign up. And these two are basically going to mirror each other. There's not going to be a lot of complication within these. So with this, I'm going to just come in here, HTML5. We'll call this login. Oops. And then I'm going to copy paste once we have this all set up. So we'll have h1 sign in form action equals auth login. And again, all of our authentication is going to go through that auth route, so we'll make that pretty simple. So we're going to have, for this, we'll just use username and password. I don't think, you could obviously add more fields to this if you wanted to, but again, I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. So we're going to have a section with label. Actually, we'll leave that on the same line for username. We'll call this username, and then we're going to have an input here with an ID is equal to username, name, username, don't mind me adding commas, type equals text, and then we could add a couple extra fields for, I guess, simplicity's sake, or not simplicity's sake, excuse me, for user experience sake. So we're going to go autocomplete equals username required autofocus. So that'll make this field be the first one that's selected. Required means when we try to input this form, it won't let us input it unless we have that field filled out. Now we're going to add another section. We're going to call this password, label, password, ID. Let's call this actually current password. Name, password, type, password, autocomplete, current password. Required, yet we don't want it to autofocus, so we'll get rid of that. The last thing we want here is a button. Type equals submit. We'll call this sign in. All right. I think everything looks good there. We're going to copy all this over. We're going to paste it over here. We're going to call this sign up. Change that to sign up. Everything should basically be the exact same again, but. And then the last thing we want to do is we want to be able to route between these. But to do that, we're going to go ahead and get our authentication routes set up. So inside our routes, we're going to add auth.js. And inside auth.js, we're going to start by just require an express. And then we're going to get the express router. And then we're going to have two simple routes. We're going to have just sign up and log in. So we'll go router.get login, and then we're going to have our function here with request result next. And then for now, we'll just go res.render login. That's going to come from our views. And that should be all we actually need for login. Sign up should be the same. Sign up. And then with this, we can go back into our app, and we just need to make sure we tell the app to use our new auth router anytime we get a request going through that URL. So we'll add another one. We'll call this auth router routes auth. And now with this, if I save it, we'll stop. We'll restart. App.use requires a middleware function, but got an object. Did we export it? We did not export it. So inside here, you can see we just need this export router. So now if I come back, try to start it again, boom, it's started. All right, we're at localhost 3000, welcome unvalidated user. Now if I go auth, sign up. We get our sign up, and then if we go into login, you can say it's a sign in. So the last thing we just want to add really quick is normally you can navigate between the two. If you're on the sign up tab, you should be able to go to sign in. If you're on the sign in tab, you should be able to go to sign up. So href equals auth. This is the sign up that I'm editing right now. So we're going to want to go login. And we'll just call this already have an account. And then on the other one, on the sign in, we're going to say need to make an account, and this should take us to sign up. So we'll restart, reload. Now we're on sign in, take us to sign up, take us to sign in. We're not going to worry about how this looks. There's plenty of videos that I'm sure you could watch to make it look very pretty, but again, only focused on functionality here. Also, I did just realized we're going to want to change this to sign up. Just missed that one. So inside our index, when any user navigates to this page, right now it's saying home, welcome, unvalidated user, right? But we don't actually want anybody to just be able to visit the home page. We want to see if they're signed in. And this is going to make, this might not make complete sense right away, but we're going to go if request.user. If we have this, then we're going to render the page. Otherwise, we're going to redirect to our auth login. Now, what this is saying, this user object is going to come later, but it's going to be part of the session. And basically, all this is saying is if the user signed in, we're going to render the index page. If not, we're going to go back, or we're going to send the user to the login page. And then we know that if they have the user object, we're going to go ahead and send them to, or we're going to show what that actual username is. Okay. So I think the next natural thing to make sense is set up our user model. So inside here, we're going to create a file called models, and then we're going to create a new file called user. Now, this is going to be part of our database. So I'm just going to type a bunch of stuff out. I'm actually just going to copy paste a little bit of boilerplate, and then we're going to go in and I'm going to explain some of the things that we want to do here. So here we're using Sequelize. Again, if you don't know what that is, I recommend finding a video on it. It's going to change the way that we work with the database to make it a little bit easier. So we're going to have this model called user, and all this is going to have, whenever we create a user object, we're going to need a username and a password. The type of all of these is going to be string. We don't want these to be nullable. Obviously, if you try to enter a username that's nothing, it should throw an error. And then we also want the usernames to be unique. And then we have password, type, data types dot string, allow null is equal to false. And then the last thing that we're going to use, since I know the future, I'm going to go ahead and put it in now. When we hash our passwords, we're going to keep the salt as a data member. And basically what we're doing here is we don't want to store the password as a plain text, so we're going to use encryption on it. And we could just use one salt given at the beginning of the program, but instead we're just going to go ahead and save the salt along with the entry. So allow false. And then the last thing here, outside of this object, so that's our model. We're just going to go ahead and give it Sequelize model name user. Okay. And then we just need to export this dot exports equals user. All right, with that set up, we can now go ahead and actually do some authentication. So I think the first thing that we'll do actually, we'll come in here. Let's do the sign up first. Yeah, let's do the sign up first. So right here, we'll go router.post and then sign up request response next. Okay. So we'll make a new salt. To get salts, we're going to need to get cryptography. We're just going to use, I just pasted it in, crypto equals retire crypto. Now down here, oops. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get a salt equals crypto.random bytes 16. And then we're going to go through, we're going to hash the password that the user tries to give us. To do that, we're going to use crypto.pbkdf2. And then this is going to come from the body.password. We're going to use the salt that we just generated. I'm just gonna paste all this stuff in really quick. Okay, and if you don't understand this, that's honestly fine, because I'm not gonna pretend I understand everything that's going on here. But basically, we're hashing a function so that we're not storing it as a string, and that should be good enough for now. And if I do something wrong, then I apologize, and I will correct it later. So first thing we need to do, if the hashing fails for some reason, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to redirect the user back to auth sign up, and we're going to go ahead and just add a query parameter failed equals 1, and then we'll handle that later. But if not, okay, so we hashed our password successfully. Now we're going to put this in a try block. What we're going to do is we're going to go const user equals await user.create. Now we don't have this user here yet. We haven't imported it. So we're going to go up here. We're going to import user from our models, user.create. And then we're going to come in here. We're going to go username is equal to request.body.username password equals, we're actually not going to use our password there. We're going to use our hashed password instead. And then the salt that we're going to store is the salt that we used. So we have everything there. Okay, so if this fails, if we try to create the user and it fails, then we're going to want to make sure we catch that error and redirect back to the sign up page. Now, why would it fail, you might ask? Well, it's pretty simple. The simplest reason is the username's not unique, because again, in our model, we said username must be unique. So we're just going to assume that if the username, or if this fails here, if the user has failed to be created in our database, it's just because that username was not unique. So failed equal to 2, and we'll have to go back through this logic and try to remember it when we set up in the front end what that's going to look like. But for now, again, we'll just call it failed equals 2. So okay, we have user at this point, and we know it hasn't failed. So we want to make sure now that we actually log the user in. So we're going to go request.login user function error, and then we'll go. So if there's some kind of error here when you actually try to log in, so again, anytime you sign up, it should log you in right away. So if something happens there, what we're going to do is we're going to go result.redirect, and we'll just copy this over, and this will be error number 3. And this last error is just that you failed to sign in after signing up. Otherwise, it should redirect you back to the home page. And that should be everything for our sign up. Now, we also need a login. And this is where we're going to start using Passport. So Passport, again, it's going to give us different strategies to be able to authenticate users. And the simplest one is username, password. So I'm going to go ahead and grab 2 things. We're going to have Passport and local strategy coming from Passport local. So we're going to tell Passport to use this local strategy. So come in here, passport.use new local strategy, and then we're going to give it, we're going to use async so that we can use await instead of doing thens. Verify, we're going to go username, password, done. And again, here, what I'm doing, I'm going to be writing out a lot of code, and if you don't understand it, that's fine, because honestly, a lot of this I don't understand. This is coming from the documentation on Passport's website. I would recommend going there if you want to figure out how to do these things yourself, or if you want to look into using more complicated strategies for authentication. So we'll do try catch here. Okay, so when you log in, basically, we're going to go ahead. We have this username and password, right? We're going to go const user equals await user.find, not all, find one. And then what user do we want to find? Well, we want to query by that username. So we're going to go where username equals username. And then if that user doesn't exist, well, basically that means that there's no user associated with that username. But in general, good practice for authentication, you're not going to want to say what failed. So like if it found the username but failed the password, you're not going to just want to say incorrect password. You're just going to say incorrect username or password. So we'll go return done, false, message, incorrect username or password. Okay. And then next we're going to go, let's say it does succeed. Well, then we're going to want to hash our, hash the password that we were given. So we're going to come in here. And this is going to look very similar to the last one, just because, again, we need to use the same hashing function. But this time, our salt is not going to come from the actual user. We don't have the salt, so we need to get it from the user. So we'll go user.salt, and then the password that we're given is already given here. We're not actually given it in. We don't want to use the user's password. So we have this, let's close this so we don't get any errors. Now, again here, if we have some kind of error hashing the password that they gave us, we're just going to want to, basically we're going to run this callback. Done is just a callback that you give it, and we're just going to pass that error along. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to check for equality between the user's password and this hashed password that we just created. And again, here, I'm not sure. This is coming from documentation. I don't know what this crypto.timingsafe equals means. I don't know why we can't just do if user.password is equal to hashed password. But for now, I'm just going to go with what the documentation recommends. So if these two are equal, it's going to return done. Or if these two are not equal, excuse me, it's going to return we're going to run the callback, and it's going to say incorrect user or password. And then at the end, if all these things succeed, we're going to return the user. And this user, again, is just coming from our database. Last thing we want to do is, if we find an error, we're going to return, again, here, done, E. All right. I believe that is everything for this. I'm going to paste in two things, and I'll explain really quickly to the best of my ability what these things are. I'm going to move this above really quick. So the serialize user, I think these things are just used by, all right, I'll just read it. It registers a function used to serialize user objects into the session. So this, again, it just has to do with managing the session. So now if I come in here, I'm going to go back to app, and then inside app, we want to make sure that we're using passports session. So we have to run these app.use, passport.initialize, app.use, passport.session. And if I stop this and then run it, npm start, created our database. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to reload. You can see it took us right away to auth.login. If I try AA here, cannot post auth/login. So we have to go back here. Oh. We never created our login post. So again, we created this strategy that we can use from Passport. So what we do with this is actually going to create a middleware for us that we can use. So we have our Git here. Now we're going to use router. That's ugly. We're going to do router.post login, and then we have request result next. And here, oh, actually, sorry, we don't actually use this because, again, we have a middleware now from Passport that we're going to use. So passport.authenticate, we're going to tell it to use the local authentication, and then on success, when you log in, it should just send you to the index page, and if you fail, it's going to send you to auth, login, and then we'll go failed is equal to 1. So this will just say, again, we don't want to tell if the username is incorrect or if the password is incorrect, so we'll just create a message that says the either of them were incorrect. So if I start this again, passport is not defined, go back up in here inside our app, and we just want to make sure that we require passport. So if I come here, var passport equals require passport. npm start, everything looks like it's running. We also, I'm going to add this really quickly. We're going to use express session again for storing session data. Require express, and I don't actually think I downloaded this earlier, so this is probably going to give an error. Yep, npm install express session. Now we can run start again, and then here again, sign in AA, cannot get auth/auth/login. So we must have, yep, there it is. We just forgot our absolute position there. Oops. Start. Localhost 3000 AA. All right, you can see if failed, but we're not actually saying anything. So let's go ahead and update that now inside of our login. I'm going to copy and paste this over just to save some time. This is just going to print an error message. If it's failed, it'll say incorrect username or password. So we'll start this up again. We will reload. Oops. What's going on here? If failed. Oh, that's right. Inside of our auth. Basically, when we navigate here, boom, 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 get login, we're not actually passing that to, we're not passing that it failed in here, you can see. So what we'll do for this is we'll just come in here, we'll go const failed equals request dot query dot failed, and then we'll pass failed equals failed. Oops. So now you can see when I refresh, it says incorrect username or password. So again, if I try that again, incorrect username or password. Now if I need to make an account, sign up. So here we're just going to go AA. If I hit sign up, you can see it'll create the account. We have home, welcome A. I can hit log out, and that will take me to this auth logout. We haven't set up logout yet, so we'll just go and do that really quickly. I'll go router.post. Oops, logout. We're going to steal this. And then we're going to go request.logout, and we're going to have a callback function error. If there's some kind of error with logging out, we're just going to go ahead and return. We're going to pass that error as a like a middleware would. And then otherwise, we're going to go to redirect this back. We're just going to send them back to the home page. Hit my mic. We're going to send them back to the home page, and if they're logged out, then this should send them back to the login page anyways. So if I come here, refresh, continue. All right. So need to make an account, AA. Actually, wait, I already have an account, AA. You can see we hadn't tested that before, but when you sign out, it'll take you, or this is all getting stored in the database, right? So even though we restart the server, it's still stored, so we can log back in. Now I can log out here. It'll take me to the sign in page where I can go AA, sign in, boom. That all is working. If I type in something else here, BB, you can say incorrect username or password. I go AA again, sign in. And then the last thing I need to do is if I come in here and I try AA, you can see we have this failed parameter here. And that's just saying that, hey, when you try to sign in, wasn't a unique username. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in our sign up. Let's see, where's sign up? Okay, let me make this a little bit simpler. Inside sign up, we're going to get that parameter const failed equals request dot query dot failed, and then we're going to go ahead and just pass a message into the generator to tell us what we want to actually generate. Case 1, oops, break, case 2, break, case 3, break. And then we're going to render sign up, failed, message. And let's just go back really quick in our sign up. You can see failed equals 1. We could have used more informative messages here, but failed equals 1 means our password failed to hash. So we're just going to say message is equal to something went wrong on our side. 2 is going to happen when the username already exists. So although username taken, and then 3 is going to happen if you fail to log in. So we'll say that exactly. Oops. Okay, and then we just need to go edit our sign up, and then inside here again I'm just going to paste this in. We have an error, and then if you come in here, if I restart the server really quick, inside here you can see error username taken. If I try to hit AA, now if I hit BB, you can see it actually works. It'll take me through. Now I need to make an account. AA, username taken, BB, username taken, BB. Actually, let's go BA here. Again, you'll see incorrect username or password, BB, signed in. And that, I believe, is everything that I'm going to go over in this video. Again, if you want to add more strategies for signing in, Passport has plenty of packages to do that. If you want to use Google, it requires you registering your app with Google Authentication. I was going to do that in this video, but I started looking into it, and it looked a little bit more involved than what I was hoping it would be. So if you want to do that, there's plenty of documentation. I will put some links in the description. Oh, and I guess the last thing, I should show this off. If we make a new tab here and I go localhost 3000, you can see I actually didn't show it very well because I'm not. Let's keep this guy. New tab, localhost 3000. You can see I'm still signed in. So if I log out here, over here, if I refresh, you can see it logs out there. And that's, again, proper authentication. You want to keep it in the session. I think that's everything. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.